Not that they don't have any competition or any ignominious company, I have to say, for this morning for Dickheiddom, which seems to be a place that a whole lot series of people seem to go and disappear up their own orifices, without household diapers, I might add. But again, Te Pāti Māori have ridden into the frame as well. On their recurring circle, it has said, they just keep on going round and round and round and round and round. To remind us that if the centre-left do win the next power at the next election, I have to say their coalition's not going to last until tea time. It relates to an exchange yesterday between Te Pāti Māori co-leader Rauwi Waititi, who was encountering the parliamentary media in the forecourt of Parliament for the first time since the Takuta Ferris affair. And he refused to answer or converse with any journalists or questions that posed questions or queries to him in English. He said this was Maori Language Week, but in actual fact he'd used the English language, and so had his co-leader Debbie Rewa Packer, only minutes before in Parliament to ask questions and to contribute to parliamentary debate. Now, this is despite using, as I said, the English language in Parliament yesterday. He refused to take any questions, but this was it. It wasn't English that Rauwi Waititi was refusing to speak yesterday. It was, according to his own words, Pakiha. I've never heard the English language described that way. But he said, I'm only talking in Maori, I'm not talking in Pakiha, in Maori. That's what he said. I mean, the man is so mad, so racist, so ill-informed, that one of the world's great and universal languages, in fact, very probably the most widely used language in the world in terms of exchanges and communications between nations, is now discarded and derided as Pakiha, a pejorative term whenever used by Te Pāti Māori. You see, one of the things, if you notice the rhetoric of Te Pāti Māori, it's always tau iwi, or, tariti, what do they call them? Ngāti tariti, if you're on their side and you're white. But if they don't like you, they use the word Pākehā as a pejorative term. All right. And yesterday, in refusing to converse in English, Rauwi Waititi described the English language spoken in rather a large number of countries around the world and learned almost as a compulsory school subject in places like China and most of Europe, for example. Still spoken poorly, but still spoken by the Americans. It described all that as Pakiha. Now, at the moment, the Labour leadership, Chris Hipkins, Willie Jackson, Shannon Helbert, for example, are struggling, publicly struggling, to understand exactly what kind of relationship that they can have with Te Pāti Māori moving forward after the events of the last couple of weeks. They want one, they need one if they're to get back the Treasury benches. But they're not sure that dating the guy with the neck tattoos, the bulging eyes and the self-righteous rhetoric is going to work out so well. If I can give you an analogy, it's a bit like the girl in high school who's attracted to the bad boy, thinking that she can reform him if they ever hitch up. 2 black eyes, a broken relationship, and a drained bank account later, she discovers that she can't. And I have to say, she's a bit of a cliche in this country, said middle-class white girl. But everybody told her that that's how it would end up beforehand. Well, Labour's in exactly the same place. You can't reform badness. You can't alter basic personality. You can't change those who don't want to change, and in Rauwi Waititi's and Debbie Rewa Packer's and Takuta Ferris's case, can't and won't change. Labour doesn't really have a problem in one sense. It could, like the young girl, walk away and go, there's a bad trip I've avoided. But it's heading in the opposite direction at the moment. And it's compromising its identity and its integrity every day to do so. I'll be interested in your thoughts on that, because I would have thought that Chris Hipkins could, particularly given the state of the economy at the moment, make a huge, and the relative unpopularity of the Prime Minister, make a huge play for the centre ground of this country with common sense, orthodox policies, and, well, frankly, just a little bit of compassion and probably overseas borrowing. But no, he's always looking over his shoulder and just hoping that they reform themselves in exactly the same way that you hope that, well, every girl hopes that the bad boy can be reformed, but my God, they're so damned attractive. And we all know how that turns out, particularly the parents of said girls.